Good afternoon. TechNation editor John Wallace here. I'm excited to be with you today as we learn more about the tool of the trade featured in the January issue of TechNation magazine, Maull Biomedical's MIST software program. Thank you to today's sponsor, Maull Biomedical. Maull Biomedical Training provides training on contrast injectors from leading manufacturers. With more than 25 years of biomedical service and training experience in the military and civilian sector, Maull can provide high quality injector training that will allow individuals to perform operational inspections, preventative maintenance, calibration verifications, and repairs. For more information, visit maullbiomedical.com. That's MAULL biomedical.com. In today's Tools of the Trade live demo, we will learn about Maull Biomedical's MIST software program. The MIST software program is a maintenance program that takes the BMET through the entire PM procedure with the use of detailed videos showing every step of the PM procedure in great detail. As the BMET goes through the software, they are annotating their actions and results, and when the PM procedure is complete, the MIST software automatically produces a PM report. Now, before we begin, I want to remind attendees that today's presentation is eligible for 1 CE credit from the ACI. 1 hour after the end of today's broadcast, you will receive an emailed survey. Completing that survey will grant access to a certificate that you can download and print from your desktop. We will wrap up today's broadcast with a Q&A session. Please note that the webinar dashboard includes a question feature. You can submit your questions for our presenter at any time during the demo today. Now, I'm really excited to let everyone know that this year we are celebrating Webinar Wednesday's 10th anniversary. As part of the celebration, during today's demo, we will give away a pair of Apple AirPods 2nd generation. We will give those away to an attendee who can answer the following trivia question. January is National Blood Donors Month. What is the most common blood type? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard, and I'll reveal the answer and the lucky winner later in the webinar. Now, today's presenter is Steve Maull, owner of Maull Biomedical Training LLC. He has decades of experience providing education and training to HTM professionals. He has also presented at industry trade shows, including MD Expos. Steve, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you, John. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for signing in to watch my presentation on our MIST software. Real quick background, John went over it a little bit, but yeah, I'm Steve Maull. I'm the owner of Maull Biomedical Training. We teach biomeds how to perform maintenance and repairs on contrast injectors. We have pretty much all the main, the most common models used in the United States ready and available. Now, before I get into the actual software, I'm assuming everybody can see the screen here. This is the opening screen of the MIST software, which is what we're going to demo today. But real quick, let me just do a little bit of back a little bit. Our training, the Maull Biomedical Training, and what this software is going to build up to is, like John said, it takes you through the entire PM procedure in great detail, which we'll talk about here in a second. That this software is actually the third and final phase of our training program. The first phase, if you go to Maull Biomedical here on our website, the first phase of training is Introduction to Contrast Injectors. It's an online quiz. It takes about 20-30 minutes, depending on the pace you move at. Once you finish the intro, and this is what we have all our students do before they come to our class. Then the second part of the training is model-specific operation training. And these are all the different models you see here that we have online quizzes for operation training. So once a student has finished the Introduction to Contrast Injector training, like I said, 20-30 minutes, and then finish the model-specific operation training quizzes for whichever models they want trained on. Each one is anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the model. Then once you have completed those, then that's what the software takes you to. So now, by the time you've gotten to the MIST software, you already know a lot about contrast injectors. And we're going to do the Stellant today, which is the most common CT injector on the planet. The intro operation training for the Stellant, and then the final phase is this software right here, which, like I said, is going to be the demonstration today. And as you can see, these are all the different models that we currently have in our software right here. And then down here we have a troubleshooting tab, which when it opens up, have model-specific model-specific error codes and error messages that you can go through. And for instance, if I click on the Stellant, it will show you, just look up all these different error codes and error messages, generally in alphabetical order. And then if you click on one, let's pick one that's 3020, let's pick one that's common, 3026. There's a video that shows you exactly how to fix what that issue is. And most of the error codes and error messages have more than one fix to them. A lot of them have videos, things like that. So that's just a little bit about the troubleshooting tab. And again, the troubleshooting tab, we have most of the major models and the error codes and error messages associated with those with a lot of help. But the real crux of this software, I always tell the students when they download this either remotely or during class, that this software right here, this is both the training for the PM procedure and it's the actual PM procedure. It takes the BMET through the entire PM procedure, and that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to go through every single step and just show you what's in the software, how it works, and what the final product is. So when you open up, I mean, you pick any model that you're obviously going to go do a PM on. I click the stone, obviously. You can go back, and this shows you all the PMs you have done, and it shows them in chronological order, and you can go back and you can open up an older one if you want to. You can delete one if you want to get rid of it. 99% of the time, you would select a new PM, but in our case, I started one this morning just to kind of move things along. So I'm going to pick one that I just opened just a little bit ago. We'll open that one. So very first, and this is the same screen on pretty much every single model. This is the recommended maintenance schedule. This goes through the daily, monthly, and the annual service requirements for this particular model. The daily and monthly is what the operators are supposed to be doing every year, every day, or every day and every month. And then the annual is obviously what we BMETs go through. Then the next screen, again, this is pretty much the same on all the injectors. There is a toolkit that you do need if you're working on contrast injectors. There is a specific toolkit you need that has contrast injector specific type items in them. And Maull Biomedical sells those toolkits, obviously. But this page right here, this is saying, all right, make sure you have your toolkit and these items right here that may not come in your toolkit. For instance, the syringes. One of the things that is learned during the introduction course is contrast injectors, for the most part, there's a couple exceptions to this, but for the most part, every model of contrast injector has a syringe specific just to that model. You can't, like, for instance, this is obviously a Stellant syringe. So we're telling the operator, or I'm sorry, we're telling the BMET, hey, before you go out and do your PM, make sure you have your Stellant syringes, make sure you have a graduated cylinder. But like, for instance, this right here, this contrast or this Stellant syringe right here, that does not fit on any other model. So pretty much every single contrast injector is, the syringe is model specific just to it. So this is just basically telling the operator, make sure you have these extra things. Then right here, this is the first page where we're going to actually start entering specific information. Everything that's entered in the software here is going to show up on the final PM report. You never have to save. There's no save button here. Every time you move on to the next screen, when I'm done with this screen, I click the next button here. It automatically saves your work up to that point. So if you're ever in the middle of this PM procedure, in the middle of the software program, and then you, for whatever reason, have to stop, you don't have to save anything. You just close the program out. The next time you open the program and bring this particular incident up, it will pop up to the screen that you left off at. So just one thing to make it a little bit easier. But this is right here, just generic information that's going to go on pretty much every PM report. Work order number, BMET name. You'll notice here it has my name. When anybody who uses this software, the software is licensed to that particular BMET. So that when the PM report is produced, the PM report's obviously going to have the date on it, and it will also autofill in with the BMET's name that performed the PM. Localized asset management number, hospital department, lab room number. I'm making all these things up, obviously. Except Joe Burrow Medical Center. That is one of the more excellent medical centers on the planet. The mounting type, serial numbers, things like that. We'll get to software versions here in just a little bit. Now, the reason I wanted to go and fill these items in here is something I'll demonstrate on the next screen. But anytime there's a text box like this that's asking for some specific information, you have to put something in that box. You can't leave it blank. For instance, let's just leave this one blank. If I try to move on to the next screen, a little message pops up. Please answer everything on the screen and continue. So put that back and then click on the next. Now, this is the first screen with a video. So very first thing here, annotate the software version. So everything written over here is basically a crib notes version of what's happening or what's being described in the video here. So let me mute this because I'm going to talk through the videos. I'm not going to worry about the video or the audio in the video. So right here, this very first one, we're going to annotate the software of our stomach. So it goes through, shows how to turn it on. We're waiting for the screen to pop up, and right here, and it highlights it. That's showing the operator where the software version is. So same thing over here. This is basically everything written over here is basically talking about doing what's happening in the video. So over here, we're going to put software version. We'll put 21A, common software version, and then big red highlights. I'm trying to get the operator's attention, and I say it in the video, turn the injector off and unplug it from the wall. That's important based on the next things we're doing. Click next. So this one, it's just a cleaning and inspection of the display in the main unit. Again, the video goes through it. This is the display. There's going to be a video of me cleaning off the display, things like that, looking for cracks, looking for wear and tear on the touch screen, anything like that. So over here, we're going to put pass for the screen. Same thing with a hand switch, clean the hand switch off. Could put pass, fail. Sometimes there is no hand switch. Sometimes they just use one of the buttons on the display. So for fun, we'll just put an A. And then the display cable, which is what they just showed there, we'll put pass. And also anything, these boxes here. So you have to click, you have to select pass, fail, or NA on all these items right here. Now, none of these things require any information to be typed in. So I can actually move on to the next screen, but, and the reason for that is these are basically note sections. Now, if it's, and we'll talk about that here, I'll bring it up here again in a second, but anywhere where there's a note section, that doesn't require any information to be put in. If it's not, if the box is not asking for a specific piece of information, then that box can be left blank. But if you want to put something like, let's say fail, we'll put cracked screen and so forth. So anything we type in our little notes sections here will show up on the PM report. We'll talk about that here again in a second. Same thing here. This is more cleaning and inspection, and we're going to be inspecting the main unit and the power cords, main unit cables and the power cord, and the ISI cable. ISI is a cable that ISI stands for Imaging System Interface, as we can see right here. And that basically is a connection between the injector and the imaging system so that they can talk to each other. And we'll put pass, and for ISI cable, we'll put NA. We'll pretend this one doesn't have it, and we'll put not available, something along those lines. Now, this isn't a model specific thing. This is true of every contrast injector, and this is what I talk about with all the students. The cleaning portion of a PM on a contrast injector is a kind of a wild card, a variable. How much cleaning is necessary on a contrast injector can dramatically increase the length of time you're going to spend doing on this PM. But one of the things the manufacturers are adamant about is no cleaning solvents are necessary, water only. Contrast injectors use contrast and saline to do what they do. Both contrast and saline are water soluble. They might dry. Contrast dries very hard and thick and sticky, but at the end of the day, it is water soluble. So you don't need any special cleaning solvents. You don't need any of those sandy wipes you have all over the hospital. Just hot water and a wet rag, hot water and a rag and elbow grease, and that will get all the contrast off. And this screen was just reiterating that. So I'm going to get into the cleaning and so forth of the injector head. So very first step here, manual knobs, and the video is showing how to remove the manual knobs, clean them, and so forth. So I'll click, we'll say pass. Then it's also going to go into a little metal strain gauge or strain relief inside the pressure or inside the manual knobs to make sure that that piece of metal's there. It's talking about cracking around the manual knob and just using, if it's minor cracking, as the audio would say, just use tape to secure it. If it's major cracking, then you would have to go ahead and replace the entire manual knob. And well done. Same thing here. We're going to go in. The video is going to show how to crack open the injector head. We're going to remove the lens cap right here. So this is the lens cap. This is basically the cover that covers up some blue and green LED lights here. And there's a gasket that we're going to remove. This is part of the PM procedure. And it shows here removing the gasket and then cleaning the gasket off. And over here it says, if necessary, replace the lens cap gasket with part number STD01-4 for the Stellant head, or STDS or STS01-4 for a single head. Maull Biomedical, we sell the PM kits for these contrast injectors, and for these gaskets, whenever we're showing a gasket or some component that needs to be inspected or replaced on a regular basis, we typically show the part number for that in the text over to the left. So then obviously here we took the gasket off, cleaned it, inspected it, make sure that it's still good to go. And then this obviously is just showing us putting the gasket back on. If the gasket were torn up or in bad condition, then the gasket would just be replaced. And that's what I tell the students. Most of the time, the gaskets on these contrast injectors, and it's not just the Stellant here, pretty much every model, if you remove the gasket and it just needs cleaned off and it's still in good condition, you can just put the gasket back on. The gaskets on these injectors don't have to be replaced on an annual basis. And we're going to put pass, and just for giggles, we'll say replaced gasket. Now we're going to show how to remove the bottom head cover. For any of these contrasts, we always have to take the covers off the injector head. This is true of all the contrast injectors. Whenever you're doing a PM, we're not only cleaning off the contrast on the outside of the contrast injector, we also have to go inside and clean off any fluid that did actually breach inside the injector head. Now, hopefully the gaskets that secure or seal the injector head held up, but sometimes fluid does get through, so we have to take all the covers off, clean the gaskets, and then obviously clean any components that got contrast on them. So that was removing the back cover. Now we're removing the rear head cover. While the video is taking us through this, we're going to go ahead and put pass. Put everything clean. When we're doing PMs, I don't normally type this much in the boxes, but just for these demonstration purposes, go ahead and doing it. As you can see on the video, we're removing the head cover, and it talks about this in the audio, and obviously you're going to see in the display when we remove the back head cover, we don't want to pull it away right away, as there will still be cables connected. There's a hand switch and then two heater cables that have to be disconnected before we yank it away. So that's what we're demonstrating here. Hand switch, and then over on the other side, the two heater cables that go to the contrast injector heaters. Then we are free to pull the rear head cover away, and next screen, we'll remove the front head cover. I think that's next screen. Yep. So here, then we're just showing, we're going to clean our strain gauge, and we're going to clean the rear head cover with our wet rag again. Move on to the next. Now we're going to do the same thing, basically with the top head cover, showing the operator showing the BMET specifically how to remove the front head cover, top head covers and gaskets. We're going to go ahead and hit pass again. We're also going to deal with another gasket here, as you guys will see, and this is the part number for the gasket. So we're basically walking the BMET through removal and which parts need cleaned, and obviously the part numbers if they do need replaced. A little bit. Screw all these. So now we have the head cover off, removing the gaskets, obviously. show them how to clean the gasket again. Same thing. Gaskets are good, just put them back on. If they are torn up, go ahead and replace them. And then once that's done, cleaning the head cover off with our wet towel again, and then putting the gaskets back on. There we go. As such. All right. Then pivot knuckle gasket. This is the gasket, or this is the connector that actually holds the injector head to the pedestal here. There is a little gasket right here, and this is just a video showing how to get the front head, or how to get the pivot knuckle off and get that gasket removed and replaced and cleaned, or cleaned and replaced if necessary. Same thing. Here's the part number for the gasket. We'll say fail. We'll say replaced. And then obviously showing how to remove foam gasket, get it off as best you can without tearing it, just in case it's still in good condition. Once we have it off, and we're gonna clean, then we're gonna put it back on, get it back in its groove, and then reattach the head. Simple enough. Front assembly gasket. So now we're going to do the same thing. This is the front assembly, and then there is a little gasket right here, this black ring right here. So this needs to be inspected, cleaned, and then obviously replaced. And then you can see here how we actually do it. We will say pass, part number 4 if needed, and easy peasy done. And John, if you have any questions, if anybody's throwing questions out while we're doing this, you can go ahead and chime in with this. Although
sorry, I had a couple of questions come in, and one was suggestions for not getting contrast and saline to drip into the bottom part of the injector. Hex, wipe the injector with the Santa Claus. Could it be just a warm rag?
No Santa Claus. Santa Claus not necessary. Just a warm rag. Like I said, saline is basically just salt water. So salt water, you can literally wipe that off with your hand almost. And yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. The contrast, it is water soluble. It's very sticky. As soon as you come in contact with contrast, you know it because it's sticky like syrup. Even when it's dry, it's tacky. It doesn't matter. You get it on your hand, you get it on your skin, you get it on your clothes. It doesn't do anything. It's just wipes off with water. So yeah, no sandy wipes. No sandy wipes. As far as tips on how to drip contrast, I think they said the bottom of the contrast injector, but it's just sort of the nature of the beast when they're filling the syringe, when they're connecting their fill tubes and their connector tubes, and they're using the contrast and saline bottles to fill the syringes up. It's basically when they're removing because whenever you fill the syringe up, the injector head has to be pointing straight up, so the syringes are pointing at the ceiling. So when you fill the syringes, no air or any air that gets into the syringe during the fill procedure, when you prime it with the injector head pointing up, the air bubbles float to the top, so the first thing they get pushed out. So every time they fill the syringe, the injector head has to be pointing up. So and I think we'll see this here in a little bit, but there's a connector, or there's a fill tube that they put on the end of the syringe, and then the fill tube goes in the bottle of contrast, and then that's how they fill the syringe up. And when they remove that fill tube, that's typically when you get drops of contrast fall down onto the injector head. Now, my best advice, and I don't know if a BMET is asking that or an X-ray tech is asking that, but really there's really kind of no way to completely prevent that from happening. But my best advice to anybody is, you don't have to sterilize or anything. The rag doesn't even have to be wet, but just, if you spill some contrast on the injector head, just immediately wipe it off. It's literally a few drops. It's no big deal. If it's a few drops, you wipe it off, great. But I mean, if you don't bother cleaning that up and you do 5-10 procedures a day, over the next year, those couple of drops, they add up to it looks like a wedding cake by the time the BMET comes in a year from now and does the PM procedure. And I've literally seen and had BMETs tell me they had to take like a flathead screwdriver and kind of chip away at the contrast because it got so thick it would just have taken forever to try to clean it off with just a rag. So yeah, that's really my best advice. Clean the spills up as they happen. And if you're the BMET hearing this, all you can do is suggest that. There's really nothing that the BMET can do about that.
Another
right,
question we had is should techs, and I think they're talking about technologists, the people operating the machine, should they clean the manual knobs or should the biomed personnel do that?
Well, typical rule of thumb is if it can be taken off by hand, meaning if you don't need a tool to remove something, then it's something that techs can do. Now, whether they will always do that, that's another thing. But like the manual knobs can actually be pulled off. You don't need a screwdriver or anything. As you saw in the video, the manual knobs, they pull straight out. I mean, that one's kind of a gray area. If the techs want to be nice about it and if they don't want to get contrast on their fingers all the time, yeah, the manual knobs can be cleaned by the techs. I mean, part of the daily and monthly maintenance that the techs are supposed to be performing is a complete wipe down of the contrast injector. They're supposed to be wiping these things down and cleaning all the spilled contrast off of them daily. So yeah, I guess the best answer to the question is yeah, the operators can clean the manual knobs themselves.
Great, go ahead and continue for now.
All right, so still in the cleaning phase, and you can see there's a lot of cleaning going on here. The front cap assemblies, that is, I'm sorry if you can hear the audio behind me, it won't be much. So these white rings here, these are actually designed to capture the contrast that gets spilled onto the injector head. So cleaning these flex rings, or I'm sorry, cleaning the front cap seals is also part of the PM procedure. Now we're getting inside the injector head here. We're going to remove, I'm going to move this down a little bit. So we're getting inside here. We need to take the front display board off. We have some cleaning and checking we need to do to make sure contrast didn't get onto the back of the board here. And there's also this gasket right here. It's not a gasket that's replaced annually because it's glued on, but we want to make sure that we do clean this metal gasket here off. And then you'll notice most of the time you see where we're doing this PM, we've taken everything off. And we say in the videos, unless you're told to put it back on, don't put the component back on until we tell you to. In this case, right here, it's in bold red. Reinstall the head display board when done. So at the end of this video, once we cleaned it, we actually will be putting this cover back on, or putting the display board back on. And we will put pass. Same thing here. Now we're doing the same thing with the LED gasket. You haven't seen them yet because I don't think we've seen this thing turned on and armed yet, but this ring right here and then this ring right here, I'm assuming everybody can see my mouse. These circles here, those are LEDs. There's a set of green LEDs and a set of blue LEDs. This is the LED board. Same thing. We need to take this board off and then this metal gasket around the outer edge. We need to inspect that and clean that and make sure that that's still intact. So we will go ahead and hit pass. And then, yeah, same thing here. We're going to inspect it, clean it, and then when we're finished, as it says over here, reinstall the LED board when done. We will already press pass. So now the rest of the video just tells us how to put everything back together. And then the piston tips. These are the tips that come out and push the syringe forward, or the plungers forward in the syringes. This is going to go over the plunger tip gaskets, and then the actual plunger tip, making sure that they're clean. Plunger tips, the syringe tips on the pistons, they don't typically get too dirty or contrast on anything because they're literally underneath the syringe. The syringe doesn't typically leak from the inside; it typically drips from the top of the syringe where the tubing connects to it, not from underneath it. So typically the piston tips don't have a whole lot of cleaning needed on them. This is just going over the piston sleeve and the rubber piston boot that are basically there just to help keep any contrast that does get spilled on there from getting inside the tip. Same thing, we're just going to use just some sort of dielectric grease on the tips, and it just helps keep the boot soft and keeps it from slipping away. And if there is a contrast spill that gets to it, if it's covered in grease, it tends to keep the contrast out. Same thing here. There's a lot going on inside this head. This is a syringe sensor board. Same thing. We show how to remove the syringe sensor board, how to clean everything, and then put everything back together. I'm not going to go. I won't go into how this board works. It's the syringe sensor board. This board here senses when a syringe has been placed inside the well, and it's an optical detector is what it is. And in class we talk about how this optical detector works, but we're going to take this board off. There's a gasket here that we're going to clean. There's a window that we're going to clean as well. And then once it's finished, then we will put these syringe sensors back in when finished. So we took this board out. Now we're taking the window out. So that gets cleaned. As you will see here, taking the gasket off, going to clean the gasket, going to clean the window. Cleaning the window, then put everybody back together. Clean the inside, forgot about that. We're going to clean the inside of the syringe well as best we can while the board is out, and then we're going to reattach the board. And up here we will say pass. Flex cam rings. These are these little white rings just inside here. It's just an inspection, really not a whole lot of cleaning that can happen because you have to tear this whole thing apart, but just get down there as best you can with a wet towel just to clean off the flex cam rings. We'll put pass. And this cleaning stuff is boring, I know, boring and repetitive, but there's a lot to it. Same thing here. Head cable. Going to inspect the integrity of the head cable and clean it off here where it actually goes into the injector head. Next. All right, and then at this point, we don't show a video since you took it apart. We assume you can figure out how to put it back together. If you need to go back and rewatch the videos in reverse, feel free. But here on this page, reassembly injector head, front head cover, rear head cover, lens cap, and manual knobs. And then right here, plug the injector back in and turn it on. And at this point, we're going to just go over some operational inspections and some more cleaning. So at this point, we're going to get the pistons pushed all the way out, and then we're going to clean the pistons with a wet towel again. Skip forward, and then we're going to pull the pistons back in. Now, contrast injectors, they can be either wall mounted or ceiling mounted or on a pedestal. So one of the very first questions way back at the beginning was, it asked what kind of mounting device this was. Is it head, or is it ceiling, is it pedestal, things like that. So the head mounting device, this is just sort of generic. Whatever kind of head mounting device you're using, make sure that so that's why we don't have a video for this one, because it could be 3 different things. But it's the mounting device. We're just making sure the mounting device is clean, all the bolts are secure. If it's a pedestal, make sure that the casters move freely and none of them binding up and things like that. So we'll just put pass for that one. Operational inspections. So now we're actually putting the contrast injector to its paces. In this particular one, we're going to set the date and time. So we show how to go in, set the date and time. So we will say pass for that. Now we're going to go through some injections to make sure that the system is injecting properly. So somebody's already been through the operation training for this one, so we don't have to go through great detail on this one with the video, since the operators, or since the BMETs will already know how to do it. So we're telling the operators, enter this protocol. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 4-phase injection. I know that might not mean anything to some of you, but first phase is going to be contrast. Then we're going to shoot some flush solution. Then we're going to go back to contrast. and then this is phase, and we're going to shoot in each phase. Remember these numbers: 10, 70, 2.5, 29, and so forth. I'm going to set a pressure limit of 325 psi. Pressure limit is sort of a drawn out explanation, so I'm going to skip over that. If you want to learn about pressure limiting, go to Introduction to Contrast Injectors, no delay. And so once that's entered, as you can see here on my display, these are the protocols that we were putting in. 325 psi is the pressure limit. So we're showing how to fill the syringe, and we're moving the pistons forward to 200 milliliters, and we're going to start this injection at 200 milliliter level. And we're basically just showing the operator, or going through with the operator to arm the injector and make sure it's ready to shoot. And remember earlier I mentioned these green lights, green and blue LED lights. Those are the green and blue LED lights right here. That's the start switch. And then as you can see, my piston is moving. So we're basically just making sure the arm lights work, the injector lights work, and that the actual injector injects when we hit the inject switch. And then once the injection is complete, the one we just did, we want to make sure that we have very specific volumes left in each one. And then we document the results over here. We want to make sure that syringe A, if this was a dual head injector, meaning there were two syringes, which most of them are, after this injection was over, syringe A had 30 milliliters left and syringe B had 170 milliliters left, plus or minus 1 milliliter. Or if it was a single head, meaning just one syringe, a contrast syringe, make sure that the syringe has 0 1 milliliter. It's a different shot. So just general operation inspection, we will say it passed. We will say it passed with flying colors. All right, syringe heater. Not every injector has a syringe heater, but if they do, we're going to go over the syringe heater right here. This is heater that actually goes on the syringe to keep it warm. And this, we'll go over that, and we'll say NA, because a lot of times there's no heaters. But it's just a matter of feeling it. If it's warm, it passes, clean it off with contrast, and move on to the next. Forward and reverse load buttons, we're just making sure that these right here are my forward and reverse load buttons. We're just making sure that they work properly. Pressing up makes the piston move forward at various speeds. Same thing in reverse. And we're on the blue side here, so that's saline. And then in a second here, I'll move over to the contrast, the green side, which is contrast. Do the same thing. Just make sure the forward reverse buttons work at various speeds. And it's pass fail. And when finished, reinstall the syringes and drive the pistons fully forward. So the next screen, or that's actually going to show it. We're going to put the syringes back on. Like I said, we leave nothing to chance. Put the pistons on and then drive the pistons all the way forward. Now, plunger position verification. This is a test. We're just going to make sure that the syringe volume is accurate. If my display says there's 50 milliliters of fluid in the syringe, there's 50 milliliters of fluid in the syringe. And this is the actual procedure that it goes through. So we'll just put pass, fail, NA on syringe B, because if this was a single head syringe, there wouldn't be a syringe B. So if this were a single head syringe, you would select NA right there. Next, now we're going to do flow rate checks. We're all BMETs. I think we all know what a flow rate check is. So we're going to enter a specific protocol, flow rate of 5, volume of 50, pressure limit of 300 psi. This is actually how we fill the syringe. I don't think we've demonstrated this yet. And do that for both syringes. And then once we're done, we're connecting our connector tubing. Then we are going to prime our connector tubing. Then we're actually going to perform the actual flow rate check. So we're going to get a graduated cylinder. We're going to tilt the injector head down. We're going to arm the injector. Get our graduated cylinder. Get our stopwatch. Did I do the stopwatch? Yep, there's the stopwatch. Arm the injector, and as soon as the injector is armed, that's the arm, that flashing, those flashing lights there means the system is armed. So then for side A, We obviously do this one at a time. For the A side syringe, which is contrast, we expect a duration of 10 seconds and a volume of 50 milliliters, plus or minus 1 second, plus or minus 1 milliliter. And then this just goes through. Now, this is not critical. The timing is not critical. We don't need an electronic timer here. So just a standard stopwatch will do. And we're going to start and stop the injection. Start and stop the stopwatch with the start and stop the injection. It's 50 milliliters, plus or minus 50, 10 seconds, plus or minus 1 second. And over here, so I mentioned this earlier. So right here, I can't just hit pass or pass, because these boxes right here, they're asking for a specific, this isn't pass fail. We're looking for a specific volume or specific time and volume. So if you click next, please answer everything on the screen and continue. So we're looking for 10 seconds, and we're looking for a volume of 50 milliliters plus or minus 1. We'll put 50 and 10 and 49 here. Now, one thing I did not do with this software, I did not, like if I put, like it's 10 seconds plus or minus 1 second. If I put 8 seconds here and say pass, I didn't set the software up to flag that. I just sort of left that to the BMET. So if I click next, it accepts it. It doesn't flag and say, hey, that's out. I pondered that, but I thought, nah, just the BMETs know what they're doing. Know what they're doing. If it were out of range, then that's what the notes section would be for. Out of range. And then obviously something like that, we would put fail. All right, and then it's this is just saying repeat everything we did for the B side. And then we don't go through all the videos again. You just did on the A side, you'll know how to do it for the B side. And then this is the documentation for the B side results. 50 milliliters. 10 seconds, pass, and next. And then it's telling you remove the connector tubing. So we're going to take the tubing, the tube off the syringes. We're going to completely refill the A side syringe, and we're going to empty out the B syringe and then remove it for the things we're doing next. So now we're doing pressure limit checks. Like I mentioned earlier, pressure limit is kind of it's not a difficult concept, but it takes a few minutes to explain. So yeah, I won't go into just pressure. The pressure limit is basically the maximum pressure allowed to build up in the syringe during the actual injection. If the injector tries to exceed that, then the system will react to it. It'll throw up an error, and it will adjust the injection accordingly. So we're setting up a flow rate of 8 milliliters per second, a volume of 80 milliliters, and we're going to select a pressure limit of 300 psi. So that's already done. So now this is just the setup of how to do everything. Here's our pressure gauge that we're going to use to measure the pressure. Showing how to use the pressure gauge. This is the needle adapter. So we're actually going to do the injection through this very specific size needle that will create the pressure we want in the syringe during the actual injection. And then we're showing how to connect the needle to the pressure gauge and how to connect the pressure gauge to the syringe. So now we're actually going to perform the injection. And then obviously the pressure limit check, we're showing the operator or showing the technicians or the BMETs how to go through the actual injection. Always tilt the injector head down. We have our injector connected to the syringe. We're going to just shoot the water back into a container and then measure the pressure on our injector. Remember, it was 300 psi, so we're looking for 300 psi plus or minus 50, and that's the range we're looking for. So we will say pass. We got 310, whatever we got there, I forget. And on to the next. And then we're going to repeat this on the B side since we selected a dual head syringe. We're going to repeat this. We just take this pressure gauge off the A side, move it to the B side. We're going to zero the pressure gauge out. And then we're going to change our protocol on the display. Green means contrast. Now we're going to do it for the blue saline. So we're going to change everything. We're going to make it a saline injection and put 880. And then we still have the 300 psi. Now we're set up to do the next injection. Again, we just did the injection for the A side, so you know how to do it. So we don't repeat the video. So we're just going to put the numbers here for the B side results on the pressure limit. And then remove the pressure gauge, completely empty syringes, and remove them from the injector head. Electrical resistance, BMET's not added with these, so nothing to show here as far as a video or anything like that goes. And then when we're finished, And it's just something due to the nature of how MedRad does some of their contrast injectors. They'll have a little message pop up if it's near its PM procedure. So what we'll do is, well, first we hit the reset button to blanket. So any protocol we put on here while we're doing any protocol we had on here during our testing, we didn't want to leave it for the operator. So we hit the reset button, and that brings it back to this default flow rate of 1, volume of 1 on the contrast side. And then we're going to go into the service menu, and we're going to change the calibration date on it. We're just basically going to set the calibration date 2 years out. Now, this is an annual PM, but what happens is if we set that date 1 year out, what happens is when we get within 1 month of that date, a little message starts popping up on the display telling the operator, hey, this thing needs calibration. It's on your schedule. You don't need the operator calling you up telling you that it's telling you it needs a calibration or maintenance or anything like that. It's on your schedule. You'll be in there next month to do it. And you can't turn that cal date reminder off. So what we do is we just set it 2 years out so it's not popping up for the operator to see it when it's not necessary. And then that's it. And then the final button or the final screen, this is the final screen on every contract, on every PM, or I'm sorry, on every model in the MIST software. We're done. We click generate report. And then everything we did during that whole PM procedure, let me turn my audio all the way back up. Here is my Stellent PM check sheet. It has the date, has there we go, my name right there. And then it's your PM report. Everything we entered in, all the pass, fails, NAs, everything we typed into the in the notes sections are all annotated. And the PM report is automatically saved to your laptop. You can rename it however you want. And it's a PDF document. You can do with it all things you can do with PDF documents. Email it, print it, upload it to your CMMS, things like that. And oh, there we go. And that's it. And that's it.
Thank you, Steve. We did have some more questions come in. So
yeah,
one of the questions was, any tips on keeping staff from not rotating the MAVIG drop arm a full 360 degrees, causing the injector table from getting damaged?
No, unfortunately, I don't. Not really. I know the Mavic, what he's talking about is a Mavic arm. It's the overhead counterpoise arm. The injector head hangs from the ceiling, and the most common arm that they hang from is the Mavic arm. And yeah, there is there's a little notch on there that prevents it from rotating 360 degrees normally, but that often just gets sheared off. And yeah, typically it doesn't really do damage to the table or anything like that I've seen, but I've seen the cable that comes out of the ceiling down that arm to the injector head. I've seen that get twisted up. Yeah, I know to the questioner, I know exactly what you're talking about. And unfortunately, I don't have a magic answer for you other than just tell them, you know, stop doing that. You're really screwing up the cables on this thing. Sorry.
Another question was, is this MIST software available for individuals who have completed the Maull all available model training from past training, or can it be purchased?
Well, yeah, the first two parts of the training, the introduction and the operation training, that's free to anybody on the planet who wants to come to our website and take those. We actually have some colleges that obviously have some sort of degree in this sort of thing. They come to our website and they have all their students go to our website and complete all those quizzes. But the first two parts are free. Then the third part, this MIST software that I just demonstrated, that's what they're actually paying for. If you're doing it remotely, meaning you don't attend a class in person, you just go through the online training and then we send you the software to download. It's $1,100 per model per student. If you're doing the class in person, which means you come to whatever city we're doing the training in, you use our contrast injectors to do your first bit of PM and PM training on, that's $1,200 per person. Then yeah, anybody can purchase the software. Now, I think what they were asked, I think the gist of the question was, like, if you have a BMET who, for instance, gets trained at hospital A, and then they go get a job at hospital B. Now, if hospital B has sent 4 or more students to our training, in the past, then yeah, when the BMET goes to the new hospital, we don't charge the hospital to retrain that person. We don't hospital. If hospital B has not sent anyone to our training, then no, they would have to pay full price for the training for that student. Now the student obviously wouldn't have to go through the training again. They would just, download the software. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And another question is does the software run on iPads?
No, it does not. It's Windows based only. We talked about that, but when we produced this software in 2015, and yeah, I talked to some people in the industry, and they said, yeah, I mean, 99% of the systems, or 99% of the software programs out there run on Windows that the BMETs use. So we just decided to just go with Windows-based systems, not iPads. Now, if it's a Windows-based pad, which do exist, yeah, I've actually had students say that they did have Windows-based pads that they could use on, but it has to be Windows-based.
And then I think this question was submitted before the webinar started. What sets MIST apart from all other CMMS out there? How robust is it? Equipment management, equipment maintenance contracts, etc. I don't think this applies if I'm
Yeah, CMMS. This isn't a CMMS program.
right.
CMMS program, as you know, manages the maintenance of the injector systems. This software is just a PM procedure. It's not a CMMS. It's not CMMS software.
Right. And you covered that really well. I think that was submitted before the webinar, so
Yeah.
there was maybe some confusion there. Another question is the software tuned for third-party biomed companies and field service?
Oh yeah, it's exactly what it's for. In-house, third-party, yes. Yeah.
And then
Now,
are these based on
go ahead.
Another question was, are these based on OEM procedures? Are there some customized or alternative equipment maintenance procedures?
It is all OEM procedures. Everything that we do is what the OEM does. In some instances, we have to do it a little bit differently than what the OEM does, because there's a few models out there that the OEM has proprietary software or some proprietary tool that they use that they don't make public. So everything that the OEM does, we do. There's just some steps that we have to do it differently. Like for instance, as an example, one of the things they do on the Stella, for instance, that we just showed was plunger position calibration. Basically, if the syringe is, if the display says there's 50 milliliters of fluid in the syringe, there's actually 50 milliliters of fluid in the syringe. That's a check we do. Now, how we do that check and how MedRad does that check are dramatically differently, because MedRad has their own OEM proprietary software they call Swift, and they go in and they'll make, if an adjustment needs made on that syringe, say it's supposed to be 50 but it's at 45, they'll go in with their Swift software and they will electronically adjust the voltage on a potentiometer or in some fashion like that, adjust the resistance of it so that position on the potentiometer now means 50 milliliters of fluid. What we will do is, if we need to make that adjustment, we obviously don't have the manufacturer's OEM software. What we will do is we will actually go in and we will adjust that potentiometer. If that potentiometer is off, MedRad uses software to adjust it. We go in and we will actually physically adjust it. And there's a couple other examples like that, but we haven't made up any procedures. Everything that we do is what the manufacturer says needs to be done. 99% of the time, we do it exactly the same way they do it. There's just some instances where we have to do it just slightly differently, but we get the same results.
All right, thank you very much. We're running out of time, so any other questions we have, we'll email to you, Steve, and you can reply to the attendees through email.
Yeah, absolutely.
In closing, I want to thank you, Steve, for your time today. It was a great presentation. I learned a little bit, and I have no biomed experience, so I'm happy to learn some new stuff to help me do my job better. I'd like to encourage everyone to visit the Maull Biomedical website. Again, that's MAULL biomedical.com. And as promised, the answer to today's trivia question is O positive. A lot of people got that one right. We have a lot of smart people on the webinar. So congratulations to our winner, Troy Hartman from UPMC Biotronics in Maryland. So Troy, congratulations. We will be in touch with you on how to get your AirPods. Now, a quick reminder, But you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey. The survey will be emailed in 1 hour. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you will then be able to download your certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us through email at webinar@mdpublishing.com. We will be back next month with another Tools of the Trade live demo. Visit webinarwednesday.live for more details and complimentary registration. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.